Alright, we're good to go. Hey guys, it's the team here at Authentic Mission, and we're going to do a long-time follow-up interview with Dana?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Okay. Would you mind, just for the listeners out there, just saying who we're speaking with so I don't mispronounce your name?
This is Dana Larsen. I'm the director of Sensible BC. I founded Overgrowth Canada. I'm the director of the Vancouver Chemistry Society. And today,
Okay, so last time we spoke about different aspects of cannabis legalization. We spoke about how long you've been an advocate. And since then, we've gotten a little bit of an outline on what cannabis legalization will look like in terms of what the federal government is saying, and I know where I stand on it. And I think there's a lot of things we need to still work out with it. But let's talk about some of the problems with it. Where do you personally see some problems with it right now?
Well, there's certainly a lot of flaws in the legalization plan, a lot of weaknesses in it, although it's good to remember that this first law will still make us the freest country in the world when it comes to cannabis access at the federal level. Some good stuff in it too. And I think we can move forward on improving the good things and getting rid of the bad things. But what I don't like about it are just a lot of the limitations and the legalization involved. So, we're going to be allowed to grow 4 plants per household that are 170 tall. Those are pretty small plants. And there's some severity to that. Well, we should be allowed to grow more, but at the same time, getting from 0 plants to 4 plants is the hard part. Getting from 4 plants to 40 plants would be a lot easier, I think, moving forward. The limitations, the penalties involved are a lot stricter than they are for alcohol, and that's a problem. I don't mind there being some kind of penalty for selling cannabis to a minor or breaking the rules, but when you look at the cost of alcohol to a minor, providing alcohol to a minor is fine, like tobacco is, but with cannabis, you're looking at a maximum 15-year jail sentence. Now, that to me seems very extreme and disproportionate. And little flaws like that as well, but and ultimately, I think there's a lot of good things that do as well, and we're just trying to fix the good things and limit the bad things. One thing I don't like is that while it hands over to the provinces how cannabis can be sold, the federal government retains the grow licenses. And I think the provinces need to do the grow licenses too.
Well, I personally, and I think we're on the same page with this. Tell me if I'm wrong on being on the same page, but I think that the model that BC essentially created on their own with the dispensary and being able to just go right in and buy it versus, like, I'm going to use Ontario for an example. Kathleen Wynne, our premier, at least for this time being, but that's another story. She's been hinting that she wants to let the LCBO or the Liquor Control Ontario Board or whatever, she wants to let them sell cannabis in the liquor store, but yet one of the recommendations from the government was to not allow selling of cannabis in the same place as alcohol. So, I mean, I see nothing wrong personally with the BC model you guys basically created on your own.
Well, let me speak to that. I think that cannabis is probably best sold for the most part in a standalone store. Yes. I like the dispensary model you developed here, although it has some flaws too. And the dispensary model really is a form of triage in that we're creating it out of nothing, but to help people that desperately need help. Not necessarily the optimal system, but it's one that saves a lot of lives and provides a lot of relief in the face of federal prohibition. Yes. But when we talk about where cannabis is going to be sold, I think we miss a big part of the discussion because we're really just thinking about where buds are going to be sold. But I mean, is anybody suggesting that we sell cannabis suppositories in a liquor store? That would make no sense at all. Or cannabis creams or CBD capsules or any of the other many myriad ways you can use and access cannabis. They're just thinking about getting high off it. And certainly that's a big part of the market, but there's a lot of ways of using and providing cannabis that aren't intoxicating, that shouldn't even be compared to that. I would be happy to see, I sell MJ creams, cannabis-infused creams themselves. There's no need for any age limit or restriction on who can buy a cannabis-infused cream, nor should there be on things like CBD capsules or other non-psychoactive. You can buy aspirin at any age without a prescription. I don't see why an aspirin can kill you. I don't see why a CBD capsule couldn't be sold in the same way as aspirin or even more accessible.
Yes.
So first, I'm not really against cannabis being sold in a liquor store, but I feel like that should be the last place it's sold, not the first place. And if it is sold in a liquor store, it should probably be sold at a separate till and in a separate kind of thing. But really, combining alcohol and cannabis, although it's somebody's right to do so, and I have no problem if somebody wants to combine those things, we shouldn't be encouraging people to combine alcohol and cannabis by selling in the same location. We don't sell tobacco and alcohol at the same place, and I don't really see a lot of reason to sell it out of a liquor store or a beer store, except that the big union that has a lot of influence in provincial governments, and the union sees a lot of opportunity for their workers and sell more products and make more jobs. And I guess the problem I have, something that bothers me when I see liquor stores and others landlords have the right to sell cannabis, is that none of them lifted a finger to help us legalize it. And although I don't think, having to support legalization means you can't ever sell cannabis, I think it's pretty unseemly and a bit off when everybody's arguing about who's going to sell it, who's going to make money. Well, every single day, Canadians are still being charged with possession or small-scale trafficking or doing a few plants themselves. And to me, that's where the focus should be, on ending prohibition and stopping arrests on people, rather than arguing about who can make money.
Yes.
The cannabis is big enough for everybody, and really, legalized cannabis should mean that cannabis becomes a lot cheaper. And I think everybody's thinking, we can grow this plant, sell it for $10 a gram and get rich. But no, the legalization should mean cannabis price drops drastically, and that the markup on cannabis is a lot less than it is now.
One thing that I'm personally concerned about is, and this is my own political stance on it, why before the model's already been rolled out, I find it quite suspicious that Shoppers Drug Mart was coming out and saying they want to get in on it. It kind of feels like, wait a minute, you guys as Big Pharma were against it for 50, 60 years. Now all of a sudden they're jumping into it. And why were they announcing that they were already jumping into it? I wonder if there's already some stuff going on behind the scenes. Do you think that they should be involved in it already, or what?
I think that there's definitely stuff going on behind the scenes. There's definitely lobbying and campaigning happening at all levels of government. Mm-hmm. These companies see that cannabis is big money and they want to get in on it. And there's nothing really wrong with wanting to make a profit. But like you're saying, it's wrong to focusing on the money when prohibition is still in full force, and Canadians are still being arrested all the time, and when these people that are focusing on cashing in have done nothing to support ending prohibition. In many cases, they fought against it for years, demonized cannabis, and now they want to suddenly start to cash in on it.
Yeah.
That's I don't think that's the right way to go about things.
Well,
and but that being said, I have trouble seeing, pharmacies carrying raw marijuana buds. They've got a lot of propaganda against smoking in there. I can't see them, laying a jam of one of the drugs. It's something that isn't thinking. But I can sure see a pharmacy carrying creams and capsules and salad tinctures and other products. I don't really see any problem with them carrying those kind of things. Once again, I just don't want them to be a monopoly. I don't think that the vast majority of cannabis products need to have any kind of prescription on them. They should be sold as non-prescription medication, and as a result, they can be sold just as easily in a corner store as in a pharmacy. So I'm not against being able to get cannabis in a pharmacy, but once again, it should only be one of many options, and it shouldn't be a prescription, and it should be just as available as after it is, if not more available.
Yes. Now the next question I have, and you've brought it up twice now. I was just waiting for the right words for me to say it. Justin Trudeau, I'm going to use this as an example. Justin Trudeau has come out and said that he wants to clear criminal records for people that were gay but were arrested before his father legalized, made being gay legal. If I'm not using the right words, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. Like, until 1969, being gay was considered illegal. You were thrown into jail or treatment or whatever.
Actually, anti-gay laws on the books up until the 90s in Canada, although they don't have any enforced at that point. But the anti-sodomy laws and anti-gay sex laws and that have persisted actually a long time after the 60s, although Trudeau did make some substantial changes and decriminalized a lot of it. But you're absolutely right, and it's shocking to me. I don't think most Canadians know that those criminal records were never erased, and that people who were convicted and sentenced just because they wanted to love somebody of the same gender, those records were never erased, and now they're thinking about it, and they still haven't done it. To me, it's such a no-brainer. It should have been done a long time ago, and most of those involved are now dead. So most of the people have spent their whole life with the burden of this criminal record for being gay and getting caught at it, that was ridiculous. And so if we have the situation of cannabis, we're looking at another, 60 years or something before they're going to erase these criminal records. So to me, continuing to arrest and convict people for something that we all agree as a society should no longer be a crime is really atrocious. It should immediately stop arrests. The simple possession, cultivation of 4 plants or less, trafficking in a few grams or less, that's probably decriminalized right away. And they're looking at getting rid of these criminal records immediately. And although it would help to make pardons and to erase these criminal records, it won't help in another way, because the American government will not erase or acknowledge that pardon. And so Canadians who have been convicted of this in the past will still face problems crossing the American border and other issues like that. And that's a serious issue, I think. That's the stigma involved. And really, I think we should go beyond criminal records. And we should have done it for the gay community as well, is actually offering compensation. I believe that when marijuana is legalized and is being taxed under the GST, that the first couple of years of tax revenue should actually go to compensating Canadians who have been convicted of cannabis offenses. We need more than just a pardon. We need an apology and compensation and a recognition that this was never a crime. And that especially people just convicted of possession and personal cultivation deserve an apology and compensation and forgiveness for this. And that doesn't seem to be forthcoming at all. And although you said that Trudeau's the top of you're getting to criminal records, I haven't heard that actually. I haven't seen any indication from the Liberals that they're taking this issue of criminal records very seriously. And if they would stop arresting now. Because it's really hypocrisy to say we're going to keep charging you for something for the next couple of years. No more, you can apply for a pardon after it's done. That really makes no sense at all, and it's quite insulting.
Well, I'm going to use it, like, I used he was saying he wanted to erase people's criminal records for when because they're gay and all that. So my point was, don't you think, especially considering that he basically bragged, let's call it bragging. He basically bragged that his father saved, I think it was Michelle, wasn't it?
Yeah, his brother, older brother, was facing possession charges that he died in the avalanche. And in his autobiography, Justin Trudeau talks about that. And and about the loss of his brother. And he also talks about how when his brother was charged, Trudeau's response to his brother was not, well, the law is the law, and you shouldn't have done it because it's still illegal, and you can keep that criminal record. He said, like any compassionate family member did, oh, that's too bad. I hope we can get the charges dropped, and I hope we can get rid of it. Yeah. Father do that to help get those charges dropped. I don't want to see Trudeau's brother convicted for marijuana, but I don't want to see any other Canadian having that happen either. And I think that's the real hypocrisy when you can acknowledge that. I mean, in Trudeau's family, it's all marijuana users. His dad smoked pot. His mom still smoked pot. His deceased brother was a cannabis user. Trudeau himself was a cannabis user. But none of them have faced criminal records. His mom was cannabis knowingly in the house that he now lives in. What was such a drive? And I don't. And she has said recently that she still uses cannabis. So I don't think that Trudeau wants to see his mom getting arrested for cannabis possession. Nor should she be, but neither should any other Canadian. And I think that is the real hypocrisy when you can acknowledge that your wealth, your advantages in life, privilege allows you to get away with this when other Canadians can't. And really, I mean, that goes for me too. I'm a white middle class guy living in Vancouver. I don't have to worry about marijuana possession charges or about any kind of issues like that. But if you're somebody living north, you're Inuit or First Nations, you definitely have a much, much higher chance of being persecuted, convicted, and charged for your cannabis use. And that, I think, is really shocking, that it's the Canadians who can at least afford a flip record and who can at least afford a lawyer are the ones that are getting the real brunt of this. And the ones that have the ability to brush it off often aren't even the ones that are getting charged in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe, months ago I saw you share a thing, or Global shared a thing where you questioned him right in front of other people during a talk show or something, wasn't it? Or am I wrong on that one?
Yeah, the Trudeau came to Vancouver and he did kind of a secret event here. I think he was trying to avoid protesters over the pipeline, but they invited people from different communities to come and ask questions. Sort of a little, town hall kind of a thing. I was invited to ask a question about cannabis. And I mean, Trudeau just gives the same answer as he gives to everybody, right? He says, well, decriminalizing and stopping arrests won't stop organized crime, it won't stop this and that, and it won't stop coming in the hands of people. And that's true. I mean, it's not going to do any of those things, but it still does a lot of positive things. And nobody said that stopping arrest and possession is the final step. It's the first step, and it's just an interim measure for everything else in place. And I think that's what he's not acknowledging, and that's what I think is really sad. And I worry that legalization is not coming next year. It's going to be many years to come, I think, before this is all fully in place. And these delays mean that many thousands of Canadians are still being charged. And, when Trudeau told us that he was a cannabis user, we elected him prime minister. We didn't care. We forgave him because there was nothing to forgive. Yeah. But yet, if we get caught using cannabis, he's still not ready to forgive us. And he still thinks we should be punished. And I think that is a real hypocrisy that is destructive.
Do you think that's real, though? Like, by that I mean, do you think that, truthfully, he's just giving you answers because he's in public? Or do you think deep down inside his mind he's going, yeah, Dana's right, but I can't really admit it, otherwise I'll be screwed?
I think that they come together and they make a policy, and they, for whatever reason, they put together a certain thing, and then they all stick to that messaging. And I think that when it comes to legalization, their political efforts are not aimed at placating the cannabis community. They're aimed at placating the anti-cannabis community. So I think Trudeau sincerely wants to legalize marijuana. I think he believes it's the best thing to do, and he probably, if he could wave a magic wand, I think he would probably put in a system more to our liking. But I think that their political decision is based on, there's nobody really more pro-cannabis than the Liberals are right now. The NDP kind of waffles back and forth, but they're not really, and so they already got the marijuana vote in a way because they don't really have anywhere else to go. But the anti-marijuana people, they're worried about that. They don't want to lose people that are afraid of marijuana, and there's certainly a lot of Canadians who are. And there's a lot of Canadians who oppose legalization because it's marijuana. marijuana is dangerous,
Yeah.
kids are going to get it, because legalization will mean stolen drivers killing everybody on the roads. And so they ripped these laws to placate those concerns. So do I think Trudeau believes that somebody selling marijuana to a minor should get a 14-year jail sentence, while somebody selling alcohol to a minor should get a fine? No, I don't really think he believes that in his heart. But I think they put that law in place because when some oh, you're making it too easy for minors to get marijuana. They go, no, we're not. It's a 14-year jail sentence. That's about as much as you can get. And that's the only reason.
So,
when somebody says, oh, but drivers on the road, they don't want to have to say, well, actually, marijuana drivers are pretty safe, and it's not really a big deal. They don't have to worry about that. No, they want to be able to say, well, we're concerned about that too. We put in a 2 nanogram limit to make sure that nobody ever drives impaired. And so I think that they know some of these policies aren't the best policies, but they're putting them in place for political reasons. Every politician does, because they want to negate arguments from their opponents.
well,
And when the conservatives were in that, as they were just recently saying, oh, well, this law is going to be drug dealers, marijuana, there's going to be carnage on our roads, you're going to be getting high. The liberals have things they can say back that will resonate with conservative people, because they don't really necessarily care what the cannabis community says, because they feel that there's nobody else doing a better job. We don't really have any choice but to support Trudeau. And in a lot of ways, it's right. I mean, if this legalization bill came forward with popular vote, I would vote yes. Absolutely, I would vote yes. Despite all the flaws and all the problems, passing this bill is much better for everybody than not passing it. Because not passing it means status quo, no changes, it means no opportunity to do things better in the future. And what legalization in Canada is also going to do, inspire people in other countries. And they're going to go, wow, Canada legalized marijuana. We should do it here too in Denmark. We should do it too here in South Africa. We should do it here in Australia. And they're going to pass laws and systems. Some of them are going to be better than ours and more open than ours. And then we can go, hey, we want a system more like Denmark's. Look, they allow everybody to go 100 times, so there's no problems there. And then so we're going to see everybody going forward. But to expect Canada, as the only country on the earth doing this at the federal level, to really do it all perfectly and to want a full open system and everything, I think it's just not going to go like that. There's going to be multiple countries moving forward. You know, Uruguay's got a system in place there. And in many ways, Uruguay's system is great. But it also requires everybody who wants to buy marijuana to register with the government and go on the government list.
Yeah.
And they'll have that system now with medical marijuana in Canada. I think a lot of marijuana users would rather buy it from their friend than go on a government list and risk, just that people get nervous about that. To be on a list of pots, right? So I think that we'll see Canada's doing some good stuff. I think we can keep pushing that over the next 10 years, I expect our legalized to change a couple of times. Yeah. Oh, and probably always in the right direction. Things will open up. Once people see that going 4 plants does not induce apocalypse, then they'll be more happy to accept 10 plants and then 20 plants. And then they won't really care anymore. But to expect to get a system that allows us to grow a number of plants at home on the first draft is unreasonable. Although we should, of course, keep pushing for this. And I think when we get the legalization version of 5 or 6, by then it'll start looking like what cannabis activists are really trying to do for.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you actually. This just popped into my head, and then I'll. The new federal conservative leader, I can't remember his name right now.
Scheer.
Pardon?
His name's Scheer.
Yes. He has openly stated that he's against cannabis legalization. Now, could this be bad for us? Could the conservatives roll it back if he was to win the leadership in the next election? I mean, if he was
absolutely they could. But that's why I hope this law passes and at least we get something through before the next election. Because if Trudeau doesn't win the next election, or more importantly, if the Conservatives win it, because the NDP manages to pull off America in a minute, then I think we'd see better changes. But certainly, if the Conservatives win the next election, they will definitely slow down, tighten up, and increase penalties for cannabis. Absolutely. And you know, a lot of times politics is the lesser of evils, or it's about compromising and about not, you know, necessarily getting the choice. I'm an NDP member and I voted NDP and will continue to do so. But if the choice is between between Scheer and Trudeau, I would definitely want to see Trudeau being the prime minister. And so, with the further move, the harder it becomes to remove. And ultimately, what I'm hoping for is, I would say 10 years, that every party in Canada supports legalization, whether wholeheartedly or begrudgingly. And there's definitely, you know, conservatives who also want to ban abortion. And they've got some support in their party, but the leaders of the party know this is not a winning issue. We should talk about this because it's going to alienate regular Canadians. And so let's keep that on the down low. It's kind of a battle they've lost for the most part, although it's still raised up once in a while. I hope that at least get that out of conservatives the next few years, that they go, well, we don't support marijuana, but it's a done deal. We can't really go back now. We got to accept it and move on to other things, right? And so that's what I would expect out of conservatives at some point. But now, when it hasn't passed yet, if this law is not passed and Scheer becomes prime minister, absolutely it will suck everything up for legalization, and we will see more and more problems. And you know, Trudeau certainly not perfect, and there's a lot of flaws there, but Scheer as prime minister, I think we would see, if he could, he'd like to return to the Stephen Harper mandatory minimums and forget all this talk of legalization. You know, I could certainly see Scheer possibly, eliminating the ability to grow plants at home. Maybe he would continue to move forward on some things, but they might, limit things like that. If it isn't passed yet, I could definitely see Scheer coming in and saying, well, we got to start all over again, launch a new commission, look at this, and delay and make things even worse. So that's good.
I just had to ask because he's relatively new to me, and he was elected leader of the Conservatives.
He's been for a while, but he's very low profile time side. I mean, I wouldn't be voting Conservative either way, but I would have preferred Maxime Bernier. There's a lot of issues on with Bernier that I disagree very passionately, but certainly on cannabis and other issues, he tends to come more from a libertarian perspective, and I prefer libertarian conservatives to social conservatives by far. And so it would be great to have the debate in Parliament no longer be if we should legalize marijuana, but a debate about what is the best way to legalize, what's the delivery, what should the penalties be, how should we deal with this? And then we get three parties, all who support legalization, all talking about high availability and restriction. And that's really what I want to see. Right now we've got two parties saying that, with the NDP talking about it more, but having the Conservatives support legalization, I think would be very good.
Mm-hmm.
We lost an opportunity to do that.
Well, I wanted to ask you, we've talked about the present, and there's a lot to unpack there. But before I forget to ask you, how did the Overgrowth Canada campaign? How did that go? Was it as big as you expected? Was it bigger than you expected?
Well, that's what you know. I mean, this is our second year doing it. And last year I said I was going to give away 1 million seeds, and I kind of worried that we wouldn't get enough of a response to give away 1 million. It just was sort of arbitrarily big number like that. But last year we were giving away 2.5 million seeds. But largely because I was arrested in Calgary on the second stop on the tour, and that, although it was fun, and it generated a lot of media and really gave the tour a big boost. And so we gave away 2.5 million seeds last year. This year we added a few more cities to the tour. We were Victoria to St. John's. We did 23 cities this year. And we ended up giving away 5 million seeds altogether. We gave away about 2.5 million in the mail, and then about 0.5 million in person during the tour, and another 2 million is did or 20 across the country, people attending those events. And so it was fabulous. And I'm just hoping to see a lot of response people get their seeds in the past, get them growing, how it all goes. It's a massively complicated undertaking. People move, they get so we get many letters coming back in the mail every day. But by and large, it's 99.9% of those who ask get them, and people are excited to come to the participate. I love that we're giving people an opportunity to get involved and do something fun and subversive.
Are you going to do it again?
Yeah, my intention is to keep doing it. In fact, people can already sign up for Overgrowth 2018 on our website at overgrowthcanada.com. To sign up in advance and register that way so you can get them next year. And I'll probably do a tour again this year. I don't know how many years I'll keep doing this forever. I don't want to spend the next 10 years doing all this stuff. But I think it's important, a campaign, and I think it's worthwhile. A lot of plants going last year. I see a lot more going this year.
Yeah. Now, two questions. One, what do you like? Sorry, I lost my word there. One question would be, what do you see happening in terms of? One thing that I forgot to ask you was they mentioned on the news, CTV mentioned on the news that the impaired driving is unconstitutional. The way they want to do it for impaired driving for cannabis, because they wanted to get tougher on impaired driving with cannabis and stuff. Do you see this being... I'm wondering, in some sense, if you see cannabis legalization being enforced improperly and then a drain on our court system, or do you think they're going to fix the... Because there's already watchdogs or lawyers coming out and saying that the new impaired driving laws are unconstitutional. Do you think that might be part of why it's going to be held up past 2018?
Yeah, well, that won't stop them from passing anything, but we will definitely be going to court. I expect once they get legalization through, we will say thank you for all the good stuff, and then we'll immediately go to court and try to battle them on all the bad stuff. And the cannabis driving regulations and laws are about, weirdly, they've also changed some of the words in it. That's when they take the drinking laws as well. So they're going to take it so that if you pulled over, a police officer can give you a breathalyzer test for lifters as well, if it's what they choose to. And so that'll be an issue that I think that is going to be a constitutional and we'll go to court. Cannabis, they can't actually give you a cannabis test unless they have some kind of reason. It smells like pot, or they think you look stoned, or whatever excuse they have, they can give you that test. Yeah. But the government has set the limit very low, 2 nanograms of cannabinoids in your bloodstream, which certainly means that people that abuse cannabis on a Saturday could be considered impaired on a Monday or Tuesday, because they'll still be residue in their bloodstream, even though they're clearly. And I agree that cannabis can be impairing for some people at certain doses. It's not really a big hazard on the road in any kind of real way, and a lot of these fears are very full-blown. The dosages, the ways that most people who use cannabis use it in do not produce any impairment levels. Certainly, they produce impairment levels much lower than legal quantities of alcohol. So I would rather see cannabis and impairment dealt with the way we deal with pharmaceutical drugs, many of which can cause severe impairment. Is that we have a warning label? If the officer thinks you're impaired on Valium or any other kind of pill like that, they give you the standard, so you walk the line and you touch your nose, and you think that. And if you can't walk, if you've been eating too many cannabis brownies, you can't walk a straight line and touch your nose, you're impaired and you shouldn't be driving. I agree with that. But the way most people use cannabis, they're not going to fail those kind of tests. And so I think that we want safe roads. Trying to focus on a breathalyzer or saliva test for cannabis does not make the road safer. It actually diverts a lot of police resources away from things that could make the road safer, and criminalizes and demonizes cannabis users, things that aren't risky at all and that aren't causing anybody any problem. So I think that's another instance where the Liberals are really gauging their policy on attacks of conservatives and how to push them, and not only the science really says and what those who have looked at this, studied this, would really say is the best way to go.
Now, my other question, and you would know this a little bit more than me, how much would you say, like, cannabis legalization could help our deficit? How much money do you think could come in?
It's hard to estimate, but most economists say that we're spending $1 billion a year to enforce the laws against cannabis. Now, legalization could probably bring in around $1 billion a year for the federal government. But there will also be other ancillary benefits for our company as well, because people hopefully the price of cannabis goes down, so the money people have been spending on cannabis they could spend on other things like rent, food, and shelter, and childcare, and instead of having to spend it on cannabis. So I think we'd see other economic benefits too. Now, to me, the money aspect is one of the least important reasons to legalize. It's really about human rights, about putting people in prison, and that kind of thing. But it's a big industry, a big economy, and I think we can have a significant impact. And certainly, it also allows a lot of people who are currently working underground to come above ground and pay income taxes and lose the 50 reps that are punished. But yeah, cannabis isn't going to solve all of Canada's economic problems, but I think we're looking at $2 billion a year at least, and probably more benefits to our economy via legalization. There's also other benefits, like we see in the states that have legalized marijuana. There's less traffic accidents and car accidents because people presumably are drinking alcohol and switching to cannabis. And so those kind of things also have a positive economic impact across society. The more Canadians that choose cannabis over alcohol, that means lower healthcare costs, that means safer roads, that means a lot of other things that cost Canadians a lot of money get reduced. So I see huge financial implications of cannabis legalization beyond the $2 billion.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm gonna ask you one more thing, and I think we'll be on the same page with this. Look, I live on Ontario Disability. Eventually, I would like to get off of ODSP. It's not easy living on just over $600 a month. One thing that I constantly have to spend money on, well, I shouldn't say constantly, but one thing that I gotta spend money on is my cannabis because I have my medical license. But it costs me $100 a month, and I'm spending $100 to $180 on groceries. Do you think that whatever province you're in or whatever should be covering the cost of at least a portion of the cost of medical cannabis if you have your license?
Well, I think it would actually save the government money to cover cannabis because it's so much cheaper than a lot of other medications that the government also subsidizes. So when somebody switches from pharmaceuticals to cannabis, which according to studies over the last few years happens all the time, that not only does that result in a healthier, happier patient, but it actually saves taxpayers money because in most cases they're actually buying the cannabis themselves, so they're not even costing taxpayers anything. But even having it covered would be a big saving. And absolutely, I think that's both good health and good economics to cover cannabis if you need it. I think this will happen more in the future. I think together and also have more standardized model for cannabis. But yeah, I think that covering cannabis for medical users is important. But I would really also see the price for everybody drop. I don't think if the price shouldn't remain $10 per gram for everybody with cannabis and subsidized for medical users. The price would drop hugely for everybody, and then still have a subsidy for medical use as well. Yeah. But I don't see a point for having $10 a gram for anybody, medical or not.
Well, I would argue that to your point that if they don't drop the prices, that's not going to stop organized crime or even small guys just selling a half a pound to make some money. You know what I mean?
You need much lower prices than we have now. And I think that's been acknowledged by the government that they're saying they don't want to overtax cannabis because they know that it has to. And when the real price of legal cannabis should just be a few dollars a gram. I mean, it could be like coffee, where there's shipments for $20 grams in legalization. You know, in a nice restaurant after your meal, bring you a joint on a red pillow, on a glass dome. Just like there's room for $8 cups of coffee or $500 bottle of wine. But we don't want every bottle of wine to cost $500.
Yeah.
And so there's also room for $8 bottles of wine and 20-cent cups of coffee and everything in between. Well, with cannabis, sure, if you're at a nice restaurant or a place where you're going to hang out in a shop where they sell marijuana and you're there all afternoon, you can the internet, go to the joint, yeah, of course it's possible. But at the same time, it could also be the option of being able to buy it wholesale, or get not a wholesale, but at a store where they just sell you an ounce of cannabis, or to grow your own to get it for pennies. And I think we need all those options. And as long as cannabis is available for THC, certainly growing more expensive varieties and more expensive options in certain circumstances. It depends how you use it. Some folks use it for a week, or just a few puffs on the weekend. They don't care if it's a $10 gram or a $1 gram. That's all the same. But if you're somebody who's going to use 20 grams a day for medical use, then it damn sure makes a difference if you take $1 a gram or $10 a gram. One of them means you can get your medicine. The other one means feeling healthy and eating and paying rent, right? And that's what never happened. So I feel like I live in a country where cannabis is really cheap, because like any other plant, it should be cheap. But we still subsidize it for medical users who treat it like any other medicine. But, if you don't want to have it happen, you should still be able to access it at a very affordable rate.
Yeah. If these licenses are going to be hard to get if you want to sell cannabis, are you guys out in BC, like not just you, but I'm talking other people that do it in bigger cities like Toronto and stuff, are you guys going to continue, and you don't have to answer because this is, it is going online afterwards, but if you want to answer, do you think that, are the guys going to continue to go against the system and go with your dispensaries, or is there some people that you've been
going against the system? I think that Vancouver is keep on checking the screens on that aren't within their guidelines, and then ultimately in a couple of years, the only people left in Vancouver are the ones that are licensed. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Vancouver is going to turn their top to shut down the licensed dispensaries after they've gone through the multi-year process, even if they don't comply with federal law. And so I think we'll see this kind of two-track system of dispensaries and whatever other options they put into place, which will be happening for 30 years. Ultimately, it will come to a head at some point, but I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. And I think legalization will be a lot slower than we expect. Speaking for my dispensary, we will stay open for as long as we need. And if the day comes when the other access to cannabis is so plentiful and so cheap that we can't compete anymore, then we're not needed anymore. But as long as customers are still choosing to come to us because we're the best option they've got, then we're going to stay open. So I would, if the day comes when legal marijuana is so cheap and plentiful that my dispensary loses all of our customers, I would consider that a victory, even though it's I'm going to find something else to do for a living. But I mean that's I didn't get into this so I personally could sell a lot of marijuana. I got into this to end cannabis prohibition, and selling marijuana in available to patients is a step towards that goal. Well, but I think I am confident that our dispensary, assuming we get elected city, I'm confident that we'll be around. The licensed ones will be around for at least 5 more years, and then at that point, I'm not sure what will be happening.
Mm-hmm. Now, for any of those skeptics that might stumble on this video and might be like anti-cannabis, like you spoke about before, I think in fairness to you and in fairness to them, we should let them know that there is this book out there that someone wrote called The History of Cannabis. So you might know where to find that. So why don't we tell the viewers or the listeners?
Yeah, well, I read the book, Cannabis in Canada. It's the history of cannabis in Canada. It's fully illustrated in black and white. Every page has a lot of things to look at. And it goes over 400 years of cannabis history, from the first plants in 1606 right up to modern times and the election of Justin Trudeau. And there's a lot of information there that I know people aren't aware of. A lot of interesting anecdotes about how important cannabis was to the Canadian economy through the 1600s and 1700s, how widely used marijuana was in Canada throughout the 1800s, early 1900s, that it was normalized, widely advertised, to recognize the benefits of a wide variety of ailments, that doctors were using it both for medicine and for recreation. They would actually test the potency of cannabis extracts on dogs in Canada. Pharmaceutical companies like Hart Davis with dogs to put in the potency of cannabis. But that the first Canadian charged possession of marijuana in the 1930s actually bought his marijuana that he was charged with. He bought pre-rolled marijuana cigarettes at a pharmacy, and he was given 6 months hard labor. And so medical marijuana was widely used right up to prohibition. The book is full of stories like this that people are not aware of. It's all fully documented. You can go to cannabishistory.ca. You can find all the things, the references, and how to buy the book. It's 150 pages. You can also go to projectbooks.com, and a lot of my other books are there as well. And I definitely recommend my book to anybody that wants to learn the history of cannabis in Canada. I certainly learned a lot writing this book the past few years, and I've been studying and documenting the cannabis culture pretty much my whole life, and I still learn a deal about Canadian cannabis history, and I think that reads it as well. So that's cannabishistory.ca or contentbooks.com. And it's only $10, and I think that's a very good investment for $10.
Yes. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, for anybody that wants to buy any of your books, do you take PayPal, email transfers, credit cards? What do you take?
We take EMTs, money transfers, we take PayPal, and we do credit cards on our site, and you can also do credit cards through PayPal if needed as well. You can take account to use the credit card through PayPal. So there's lots of options. I have some other books too. I've got Harry Pothead and the Marijuana Stone. It's a funny and exciting parody novel, the Harry Potter book.
Yeah.
I've got a book called Green Buds with Paths, which is a fun parody of Dr. Seuss classic with a medical marijuana twist. I've got one called The Tie-Eyed Piper, which is a over the wonders of cannabis. And I've got coming out in a week or two a Harry Pothead comic book. This is the first of a 12-part series about Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So there's lots of fun reading, and other t-shirts and other things too. And a lot more books coming out in the coming years. But if you want to learn about the hidden history of cannabis, then there's the Cannabis History book.
Now I got one more, one comment and one more question. I could be wrong, but I swear I've seen a reference in a movie to someone carrying the Harry Potter parody book. Was that just a coincidence?
Harry Pothead, although I'm the only one to write a book based on it, but other people have used the Harry Pothead idea for stickers and logos and things like that. I don't think my book is referenced in the movie. The lead TV series used to put cannabis culture into the background and reference cannabis culture, which I always fun seeing our stuff when I'm editing on the TV show. But I don't think my Harry Potter book itself has been referenced in any movies.
I'm gonna look that up. It could have been, in all fairness, it could have been just the writer of that script trying to be funny, so they made a joke, and it could have been a coincidence.
I think the Scary Movie series or like that parody series, like Davidson Harry Pothead kind of a joke, but it wasn't in reference to my book or anything like that. I don't think the book was mentioned. Well, they really took it as far and as took it all the way like my book does. But I think it was a very one of the stories.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to ask you is, now this is a little bit of, I think it might be a little bit of a loaded question, but where do you see, take away the Canada side of things, but where do you see cannabis culture in 15, 20 years? And let me clarify what I mean by that for an example. Do you see, like, how when you watch a sitcom, right? You might see somebody sitting on a couch drinking a beer. Do you see in 15, 20 years a family sitcom where the dad's sitting there after work maybe smoking a joint? Or do you think that's going to be too controversial? And also these churches, the late brother Michael Baldessaro, he basically started in my opinion, started the first cannabis church out here in Canada. But now, because of Colorado, they seem to be popping up everywhere. So where do you see, in your theory, where do you see cannabis culture in the next 15 years? We paused the video at exactly the right time. So did you catch the question, Dana? Or
you're asking about where things are going to be in 20 years in terms of culture and media and things on TV and stuff. And I think that there'll definitely be a lot more open cannabis use on TV. There's already quite a bit of that as well. I think we see more and more shows where there's more users on the show who are not portrayed in a stereotypical way. Even House of Cards has the president or the Kevin Spacey's character smokes pot in one of the episodes. This is not a big deal. He just happens to take a toke or whatever, and he's not a nice guy. In fact, he's an evil character. But that normalization where it's just a minor part of the story, it's not really a big deal, and it's just sort of an extra little thing. I think we'll see more of that. And I've certainly seen a lot of other good shows. What's that one with the dog? The guy who talks to the dog. The Australian one. But there's a lot of TV shows where characters are doing bong hits, smoking pot. Wilfred, or whatever it is. It's kind of a silly show, but he's got this guy in a dog costume. But there's a lot of shows, people now using marijuana. I think in 20 years, I predict it'll be like the transformation we've seen with gay culture, where it went from something that was seen as deviant and nobody would want to be associated with it, and people would laugh about AIDS. There's interviews with Reagan where reporters and Reagan were all laughing about AIDS, and the people ask questions about it and being all weird about it. And now our perspective, although there's certainly prejudice against gay people still, as a society, where there's leaders of there, and certainly in North America, every effort is made from the government to eliminate that and to move against politicians who want to be in the pride parade. And they want, we encourage that. And I think Canada will be the same way. That in 20 years, I think the 420 event will be something that politicians want to attend. I think that within 20 years, we'll have a prime minister who smokes marijuana. I mean, think about it now. Although we haven't had a gay prime minister or a woman prime minister, we haven't had a woman prime minister in Canada. We had the briefly. But which would you think is more likely to be elected? A person who said, I'm gay, or a person who said, I smoke pot every day? Right now, I think a gay person would be much more likely to be elected than someone who said they use marijuana every day. And I think that will change, and that cannabis users will be seen as normal, whereas right now, every politician will have to say, well, I'm more of a beer and whiskey kind of guy myself, like Trudeau had to say. And I think that normalization will come, but I think it's going to be many steps. And just like we didn't get from ending the laws against sodomy and gay sex to gay marriage in one step, that took like over a generation or 2 generations to get there. I think it'll be another 50 years in Canada before we really see a situation where pot smoking is just considered another innocuous lifestyle choice. Yeah. And it's actually recognized as probably a more responsible choice than alcohol is.
Yes. I've seen it on TV, and you're right. And there's been little hints at it. There's an older show that's not well known anymore because it's like 15 years old. But there was Grounded for Life, where they basically, if you were to look at the characters, there's no way the characters weren't pot smokers, and they did say they've done it. But I would like to see where, like you said, the House of Cards thing. I've never seen House of Cards, so maybe I'll.
I was watching it the other day. That's why I was thinking about it. But it was an earlier season, and that 70s show was a big pioneer of marijuana use, and that they never actually showed them smoking pot. And if you were a kid, in fact, my own daughter told me when I first watched that show, I didn't realize when they're all sitting in the downstairs and they're smoking marijuana. She thought it was just kind of funny how they would be, would go to them and slap between them, and you wouldn't necessarily get the joke if you weren't like sort of in the know, right? But that was a show that had a lot of marijuana use, and they were all fine. I mean, they were all different types of characters. They had the stoner character on there, but all of them used marijuana, and none of them, there was only one stoner guy, right? And the rest of them were just normal people who like to smoke pot. So I think that was actually pretty pioneering, because there was a lot of things where the character you wouldn't expect when someone show up and smoking pot with them, and that would be kind of part of the joke. But that was actually a show that went on the way, I think, to normalize the marijuana and make it not a big deal. I think that was probably the first sitcom to really just show them. They didn't actually show them smoking pot, but they would show them just pot moving around them and with the marijuana kind of stream of consciousness thing going on, right?
Yeah. I will say, and I don't know when it's coming out, but I'll message you privately on Facebook and let you know. There is a show coming out written by Chuck Lorre, the writer of...
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Chuck Lorre is like 2.5 Men, and almost every sitcom on TV he's behind it.
Yeah.
It's the show with Kathy Bates, and she's running a dispensary.
Yeah. I contest that they stole my idea, but that's...
Oh, I think there'll be several sitcoms about somebody running a dispensary, because it's a funny and natural kind of a topic. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I mean, we'll see what they come up with in that. It's a lot of times the cannabis comedy comes out of sort of stereotype cannabis users.
That's what I'm scared of.
Well, I mean, I love Cheech and Chong movies. They're hilarious. But there's also, I think, more opportunity for different kinds of comedy than just like, oh, look at these guys, they're so stoned, they don't know what's going on, or they're smoking dog shit or whatever. I think that there's other opportunities for kind of character-driven stuff and more broader stuff that has a variety of cannabis-using characters. And certainly there's some pot smokers that are stoners, and Tommy Chong or whatever his character is also pot smokers that are everybody else too, right?
Now, actually, that's a good question. Do you think, in tied with the culture aspect, do you think that Tommy Chong and Cheech Marin, do you think that they basically hurt the image of the stoner, or do you think that they in their own way, they were pioneers and they helped the movement?
I think they helped it. I think that laughing at ourselves is a positive thing. I don't think that Tommy Chong has really become an activist now, too, and it's really done a lot over the years. But we look ill, the movies made us look bad, but I don't think so. I think that perception was already there, and I think us laughing at ourselves, I've seen there's gay companies, in the Hall guy, Scott Thompson or whatever, he does a character that's very sort of over-the-top, flamboyantly gay, and he's a gay performer, but his character kind of taps into those stereotypes. It's funny, and I don't see any problem with that. People laughing at stereotypes of themselves and kind of that kind of thing. So, and I think Tommy Chong has whatever his past, he certainly earned his stripes as an activist. After he did his 9 months in prison for his son's phone company, that really changed his public image, and I think changed him personally and made him more of an activist. And, when Mark Emery was in the U.S. prison, Tommy Chong would wear his Free Mark Emery T-shirt on pretty much every news outlet that he was on. He wouldn't always get a chance to talk about Mark or whatever, and that's fine, but he was on Fox News, he was on the World Wrestling hosting, he was on a lot of other stations and media appearances, and he would always wear his Free Mark shirt. And Tommy Chong's really become a real good spokesman for the cannabis movement, and I think that was partly him going to prison. And I think that often happens, that when you try to lock somebody up or you strike them down, you actually make them stronger than they were before. And Tommy Chong, I think putting Tommy Chong in jail was something that really made a lot of people angry, and we're like, why are you putting this guy in jail for bonds? That's weird. And I think it turned him into an activist. And I think that is good for all of us. And that often happens. Going to jail or becoming a medical marijuana user is often what turns people into activists. And I think that's what Tommy Chong.
What do you think about and this is the last thing, and then I gotta go, and I'm sure you're a busy guy. What do you think about the spiritual and the church aspect of it? Like, I'm not asking what you believe of it, but what do you think about these whole, like, first of all, the pioneer, Brother Michael Baldessero and Brother Tucker. I don't know Brother Tucker's first name. Oh, Walter Tucker, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah, well, I profile both of them in my history book, and I give the Church of the Universe a few pages because I think they did some great activism and awareness and making things happen. And I definitely am also a good friend of Chris Bennett's, and his research over the years, and others as well, has definitely shown that cannabis and other psychoactive plants form the root of many modern religions, modern spiritual practices. And, I don't really belong to a religion, but if I had to pick my religion, I would say my religion is cannabis. I mean, it's certainly a plant that can heal people, that can change your consciousness in positive ways. Many people feel it brings them closer to their spirituality or closer to God, however they define that. And not only cannabis, but all of the other spiritual plants, especially the psychoactive psychedelic plants like peyote or psilocybin mushrooms or ayahuasca. People who use those, they're not really fun. I mean, especially ayahuasca, it's not really fun. Or peyote, it's quite an ordeal, but it's a work. It's a powerful spiritual experience. And so I'm a big advocate of plant spirituality. I think that used properly, these plant medicines can help you heal your mind, help you bring you closer to your true self or to your higher self, and however you call that. I certainly know that the times I've used psychedelics have benefited me, helped me understand myself better, helped me to be a better person, more compassionate, more understanding of others, and those kind of things. And there's a lot of research and experience showing that these psychedelic plants can help cure people from addiction or from mental trauma. Maybe cure is the wrong word. Help them overcome and integrate these experiences better and to become better people. And that's what they were for. They become better human beings. And that's what these tools are for. And if used properly, they can have much better effect. So I definitely think that this is a spiritual experience, and that is a big part of why we have prohibition. Because these plants have been used originally. I mean, prohibition really began racism and ignorance. And if you go back to the first bans on psychedelic plants, like peyote or mescaline or that kind of thing, you see that it was against indigenous groups, and that it was against indigenous spirituality, and that they considered these plants to be devilish and satanic, and that it was Catholics and other first Christians that were exploring the New World and subjugating First Nations populations, that these bans of these substances were really based on eliminating their culture and destroying their own spirituality, replacing it with the Christian spirituality, which I think has been very damaging for these cultures. And certainly cannabis wasn't really part of that, but the other plants and plant medicine spirituality in general, I think, was a big part of First Nations culture, and that was prohibited and banned and punished as a way of destroying their religious beliefs, destroying their culture, and trying to replace it with Christianity, which was very harmful, and which they're recovering from that damage.
Mm-hmm. Well, if there's anything else you want to say, I'll let you say it, and then if there's not, we'll do another interview, and hopefully there won't be such a big gap in between meetings. Now, I understand that's because you were busy, and that's because of different things that were going on, so it's not your fault, but you're a great guy to talk to. You're a great advocate, and not that I want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to a little bit. And if you wouldn't mind talking to Mark Emery, I know you can't force him, he's his own man, but if you wouldn't mind talking to Mark, we would love to do an interview with him as well.
Yeah, Mark's in Toronto these days, and he can't leave Ontario because of the charges he's facing for trafficking at his dispensary. But sure, if I see Mark, I'll mention to him that we're looking to do an interview. I saw him recently at the LIFT conference, or when I was in Toronto for the LIFT conference, and I don't know when I'll be seeing him again. I'm not sure when I'm going back to Toronto. But yeah, absolutely.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Hey, no problem. My pleasure, and I'm happy to chat with you for the opportunity.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye now. 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 Okay, bye now.